Good afternoon, all.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Okay. I, Anjali Gharat, welcomes you to in the second session. Our today's topic is exploring the world of educational podcasting for audio OER. And our speaker is Dr. Ashish Mishra, Assistant Professor at Jagat Taran Girls Degree College, Prayagraj, Uttar Pradesh. Dr. Ashish Mishra has also worked as a junior research fellow in the Department of Education, University of Allahabad. He has published total 22 papers. His field of specialization is psychological foundation of education, educational measurement and evaluation, and teaching of commerce. His field of interest are methodology of research and technology of education. Good afternoon, Ashish sir.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Yes,
Shall
sir.
we start now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Thank you, Anjali, madam. I am very thankful to Professor Ashish, sir, Principal Vidyalankar Polytechnic College, because he is the one of the main organizer of this FTP. I must thank to all the conveners of this workshop, coordinators of this workshop, especially Professor Prateek, who contacted me and mediated this presentation session. I also wish good luck to all the participants. We have an august gathering here. Without them, this meeting was not possible and meaningless. And they are the main stakeholders of this FDP. Is my voice clear, audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. This was just for a feedback. Today we will be discussing about exploring the world of educational podcasting for audio OER. We have so many open educational resources, that is the extended form of OER, from where teachers, students, administrators, and anybody can interact with teaching learning material. It may be synchronous, it may be asynchronous, but usually we have asynchronous form of content uploaded on website and other media platforms. You have gone through yesterday or day before yesterday about digital teaching skills. Then you have also learned how we can make MOOCs courses more interactive in the previous session. And you have also learned the factors affecting e-content creation. Means we have to take care of some of the elements or factors that may affect e-content creation, because e-content must be attractive and purposeful, very objective. We should usually put on 5 to 7 or 10 minutes videos, just because in studies, researches, it was found that after 3 to 4 minutes, concentration becomes loose. So don't overdo with your e-contents in terms of timings. And let me share my PPT. Is my PPT visible, Anjali ma'am?
Sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So move on to the first slide. Before that, I would like to tell about the learning outcomes, because today even UGC and other curriculum frameworks are focused on outcome-based learning. So after going through this presentation, you, the target audience, will be able to define and understand the concept of open educational resources. Then you will become aware about what is open license actually. Then you will definitely appreciate the value of ICT in OER, because without the use of ICT, OER cannot be that effective and its reach will not up to the mark. Now, next you will learn how open educational resources can be put into action. Especially we will be focusing on audio podcasts. Then you will be able to identify the distinguishing features of open educational resources, why these are called open. Then you will also be able to classify the types of open educational resources. Then you can define and conceptualize the podcast, what is podcast actually, and educational podcast with special emphasis. Podcasting may be educational, may be non-educational, and other types of podcasting. But here, as we are teachers or teacher educators engaged in the process of teaching learning, and we are here gathered to know how modern technology or techniques can be used to enhance teaching learning or transform teaching learning environment. And last, you will be able to definitely apply the concept of podcasting for betterment of learning of your students, as well as you will also improve your own learning. Okay. So move on to next slide. That is OER. OER stands for, as I have already told you that, and you also know it, that open educational resources. These are learning, teaching, and research materials in any format: audio, video, multimedia, PDF, and medium that reside in the public domain. It's for public purpose, public use, so that masses can have benefits out of it, or are under copyright, that have been released under an open license. Every author has his copyright as an intellectual property right, and he can, means author can relax the copyright application for the use of general public in the form of open licensing. That permit, this open license permit no cost access.
Sir, excuse me, sir. Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, I am listening to you through cell phone actually, and somehow I am not able to see the PPT clearly. Yeah, now it is clear.
PPT is visible
Now
or not?
clear. Now it is clear. Earlier it was
Okay.
blurred. Yeah.
Fine.
Now
Fine.
it is clear. Yes.
Okay. Shall we move forward?
Yeah, please, sir, please.
Okay. Thank you. Means I was talking about copyright and relaxation of copyright that have been, suppose I have written a book and you have, or you have written a book, your original ideas may be inside in that particular book. You have the copyright for those ideas because these ideas are your intellectual property and these can be protected with the help of copyright. But you can relax copyright for the purpose of open educational resources. It permits no cost access, means to access, we need not to pay anything. We can reuse materials presented over open educational resources platform. We can repurpose it. We can adapt it, means we can adapt it as per our own environment. We can make changes. And redistribution by others, means anybody's open educational resources can be shared, downloaded, and redistributed if it is true open educational resource. Next one. Open license. What is open license? By open license, we mean a license that respects the intellectual property rights of the copyright owner, author, or anybody, creator, and provides permissions granting the public or users the rights to access, reuse, repurpose, adapt, and redistribute educational materials. What are various types of licenses? We are talking about some important types. First one is open. You might have observed that while watching any YouTube video, at the bottom of the video, you must have found this double C written over there, CC. It is indicating that the particular video or content is open. You can download it, you can share it, you can use it as per your own requirement for the purpose of fruitful learning or to create a teaching learning environment in your institution also. Then it is open license. Then another is free license. This is free to access, not necessarily allowed to share, adapt, or modify. Means it's free, not open. It's free. You cannot necessarily share it, adapt it, or modify it. You might have to ask its copyright owner, I am using or reading your material free. May I redistribute it to the others or not? Then the next type of license is fair use, which permits limited use of material for educational purposes only without acquiring permission from the copyright holder. It will be indicated by letter F. Then public domain. This type of license works that are publicly available, works for those publicly available resources because intellectual property rights have expired or have been forfeited. Copyright intellectual property rights have a duration, after that it expires. Then after the expiry of Copyright Act, copyright intellectual property, any content may be assumed to be put on public domain. Then pay. Sometimes you have to pay to get a license to use or to distribute even. Faculty adopts a book from a traditional publisher. Say, for example, a faculty adopts a book from a traditional publisher. Students pay for textbooks in the form of physical textbooks or e-book. Today, we have also a concept of audiobooks. Because if we talk about Sustainable Development Goals, SDG number 4, then it clearly says that each and every citizen or individual on this earth must have quality education, must have access to the quality education. So with this audio podcast, we can reach to the persons, and those are say for example blind, or we can say visually challenged, because they cannot see but they can listen very well. And for those students especially or learners, this audio podcast helps tremendously. Move on to the next slide. ICT. What is ICT? You must have some idea of ICT, but in this slide, I am just indicating what is ICT. Information and communications technology. It provides great potential for effective, means it enhances the effectiveness of the content. Equitable. Equitable means distribution of content as per the specific needs of the learner. Some want special attention, some want more content, and some wish limited contents for their own learning. We have to see that ICT facilitates effective, equitable, and inclusive access. Inclusive. We are including masses with the help of these open educational resources because they can reach it from their own place at any point of time. Inclusive access to OER and their use, adaptation and redistribution. Without ICT, OER cannot be effectively implemented. Next point is ICT can open possibilities for open educational resources to be accessible anytime and anywhere for everyone, as I have already pointed out, including individuals with disabilities. I have talked about visually challenged, those who cannot see, and individuals coming from marginalized or disadvantaged groups. People may have different economic backgrounds, but these OER cater to the needs of individuals without taking into consideration the economic aspect or cost aspect. They can use it without paying any single penny. They can help, these ICT can help meet the needs of individual learners, and it effectively promotes gender equality and incentivize innovative pedagogical, didactical and methodological approaches. Okay, next slide. OER in action. Here I would like to refer this particular link so that I can share with you. OER in action. UNESCO, Open Educational Resources. UNESCO leverages OER, means open education. UNESCO is very much focusing on OER just to support activities related to strengthen universal access to information. Actions include UNESCO ICT competency framework for teachers harnessing OER project. Means UNESCO is working for a framework where teachers can be trained or educated how to create OER and utilize OERs, and formulated guidelines on the inclusion of learners with disabilities in open and distance learning especially, and to reduce the digital divide and promote digital competencies. The UNESCO ICT competency framework for teachers harnessing OER project supports teachers, instructors training for digital competency building in initial and in-service teacher education, and developing contextualized, means OER based on some context training materials. You can also refer it. I will be sharing the PPT with the organizers. From there you can refer to some videos also related to open educational resources. So get back to the slide. Here you have to note that, we all have to note that the key distinguishing factor of open educational resources is, means how can you identify the OER so you do not get confused, is the copyright status of the material. If the course content is copyrighted under traditional all rights reserved copyright, as we can see in books, physical books, then it is not an open educational resource. If it resides in the public domain, it may be a library as well, or carries a Creative Commons CC. I have already told you CC. If you find CC licensing symbol on any video or e-content, so you can freely use it. But what we should do, we should give at least credit to the originator or creator of that content as an ethical policy, as we are the teachers, and we should follow ethical norms as well, so that our students can follow us in the same manner. Or similar open copyright status, means Creative Commons licensing or similar type of open copyright status, then it is open educational resources. Otherwise, it is not. Now, we should focus on the 5 R's of OER. Bind it very carefully so that you can have an idea of these 5 R's. These permissions are granted in advance and are legally established through a public domain or Creative Commons copyrights. Next time, whenever you go to a YouTube content or any other e-content, just try to find it out, the CC licensing mark. It will be, with that, you can identify that it is Creative Commons licensed and you can use it free. So first R is to retain with yourself, means the right, legal right to make, own and control the copies of the content. Means you can download it, you can duplicate it, you can store it in your machines, computer machines, and you can manage it as per your requirement. It's very much free. Next, second one is reuse. The right to use the content in a wide range of ways, means you can reuse it in a wide range of ways. In a class, you can use it. In a study group, you can use it. On a website, you can put it. In a video, you can embed it or use it. Now, the third one is revise. Revision is very important as the situations, educational situations keeps on changing. The demands keeps on changing. So the content must be revised according to or in consonance with the changing times. So we have the right to revise, adapt, adjust, modify the content or alteration or make alteration in the content itself. Easy, say for example, we can translate the content. Suppose we have found an OER in English medium, English language. So it is CC licensed, then we can translate into another language. But we should take care of its accuracy of translation. The purpose of the content may not get defeated. You can translate into the other languages and your, say for example, mother language also. There is some noise from the background. Please mute yourself so that we can freely discuss without any hit. Fourth one is remix. The fourth one is remixing. You can revise it, you can remix it. Means you can add something to it. Earlier in revision, you have revised it, you have changed its content or its structure, but in remix, you have to add with the original content. You can add something, your own. The right to combine the original or revised content with other materials to create something new. Say, for example, incorporate the content into a mashup. You have heard about remix songs also. Older songs are being remixed to give a new structure, a new taste. So this is remixing. Then the last one is, the fifth one is redistribute. You can not only retain it, but you can redistribute it also. And the right to share copies of the original content, your revisions or your remixes with others. Say, for example, you can give a copy of the content to a friend or student or share it on some online platform or applications. You can redistribute it very freely, no issues. Next slide. Types of open educational resources. There are so many types of open educational resources, and it may include full courses, course materials, modules developed, learning objects, open textbooks, openly licensed, often streamed videos, say over YouTube, tests. You can have some open tests for evaluation of your learning or your students' evaluation also. Interactive multimedia elements, some open softwares, and other tools, materials, or any techniques used to support your teaching and learning. Educational resources must be directly related to teaching and learning. Any content that is available to use for teaching and learning and it has an open license can be considered open educational resource. Now switch to podcasting. That is the today's discussion topic regarding exploration of open educational resources. It's also a kind of open educational resource. Usually podcasts are free to use, but sometimes on some platforms it is in the paid form also. If it is in the paid form, then it is not open education resource. Then what is podcast actually? A podcast is the streaming ages answer, means current ages answer to radio. You have heard about community radio. You can use podcast platform as your own radio channel. And the dictionary in definition of a podcast is a digital audio file you can download or listen to over the internet on various platforms. And these platforms are called directories. We will be discussing it later on the slides. Next point is podcasts are a form of media content and it was developed and originated in 2004, nearly around 2004, when a former MTV video jockey, Adam Curry, and software developer Dave Weiner coded the iPodder. It was originated from here at this point. The iPodder was a program that let a user download internet radio broadcast to their Apple iPod only. At the beginning, it was only downloadable through iPodder and that too on Apple iPod. So iPhone and podcasting combined together to podcast. Purpose of podcast. Why we use podcast? Why not some other platform? What is special into it? The main purpose is to entertain its audience. Even while we teach in a face-to-face classroom, we have to take care of students' entertainment in the sense that they should be focused what we are saying, presenting, or teaching in a classroom. So in entertain, we can say that we have to always create a focus for our e-content or our teaching environment so that students can entertain out of it. Means they can learn with passion and will. Otherwise, if there is no entertainment, no one listen to your podcast, and the very purpose of its broadcast mass approach will get defeated. So before starting to upload a podcast or record a podcast, first of all, you have to think over that your podcast episodes must entertain your audience. Otherwise, they will not listen. Another purpose is here updates and breakdowns of current events can be discussed over podcast in the form of interview, in the form of discussions, etc. As we usually observe all over other FM channels or Air India. Next one is we learn about a new topic or industry or anything else which is new. For that, we can have podcast platform. From there, we can have the idea in the form of audio stations, or we can say podcast directories. We can also laugh out at some riffling jokes as well, but it is not the purpose for education. listen in our interviews with popular or famous guests. We can have access to so many podcasts where we can hear the interviews of very famous personalities. And last but not the least, we can experience an audio drama or narrative storytelling. If I don't know exact academic backgrounds of the audiences or streams of the respective audiences, but if you are a teacher of English or a teacher of languages, you can definitely use podcasts for your students to tell them how story can be told and how poems can be narrated with proper punctuations, with phonetics, with the use of modulation of voice, so that your audio content uh, may benefit the target audiences when they reach it and listen it carefully. What are the different types of podcasts? Podcasts can be conversational. Podcast can be narrative non-fiction, means some historical events which was which had happened earlier can be narrated through podcasts. Podcasts may have scripted fiction and repurposed content. Repurposed contents are those contents, collection of contents, where we have utilized the original content and repurposed it for some other benefits of the listeners. Conversational podcasts. What are these conversational podcasts? These are the most common podcast format, and these are generally the most informal in style, ranging with anywhere from solo hosts to a round table discussion. Many of these shows are interview podcasts. You might have heard some of them, which are discussion between one or two hosts and their guests, usually diving deep into the guests or the main speaker's personal history, experiences, or expert knowledge on a given or particular topic. So it is this type of podcast is presented in the form of conversation between one or more hosts or between a host and a guest. Then comes narrative non-fiction podcasts. As long as storytelling is concerned, it covers anything that covers a true event or a topic in a narrative style. Means the narrative must be true, real. Say, for example, some historical storytelling. Nor narrative, non-fiction means real podcasts. Then it comes scripted fiction podcasts. One can tune in for a new installment of anything, from experimental scientific fantasies to historical fiction comedies. These are scripted ones and usually have fiction. And you can also create your own scripted fiction podcast for the benefit of your students or learners. So better you should prepare non-fiction podcasts that may be scripted, so that teachers of history can teach their students with the help of podcasts, because audio file requires low bandwidth. So it is very easy. Next comes repurposed content podcasts. Sometimes content creators, from brands to bloggers, sometimes content creators from brands to bloggers to TV shows, repackage their content into podcasts where listeners can catch highlights from their favorite late night comedy other programs on those editions. TED Talks, you have heard it, TED Talks daily. Those who wish to learn can tune into, say for example, TED Talks daily, which compiles TED Talks, means TED Talks, a platform from around the globe into an easily digestible podcast for the listeners. What are different types of podcast directory? There are so many podcast directories. These are platforms for podcasts, as we use Facebook as a platform for social networking. We use YouTube as a platform for our audiovisual content. In the same manner, audio podcasts have some platforms also, and these platforms can be opened up in your browser as well as from your Android phones also. And to listen to podcasts, one needs to choose a directory first. And there are so many options available for you, but most popular ones are Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor by Spotify. Spotify Anchor is a specific kind of platform created by. Is anything else? The background voice is coming out. Please mute yourself. Anchor is a platform for audio podcasting provided by Spotify. Spotify also gives you the collection of songs as well. Then Stitcher comes, then comes Overcast directory for podcasts, and Podcast Addict is also a platform from where we can share and reach the podcasts of our own. Here today we will be, if time allows, we will be discussing about Anchor podcast directory so that we have some hands-on on them. Then frequently asked questions. I will direct you to some frequently asked questions to this link so that you can have some clear-cut idea of podcasts and audio files, etc. These are some, say for example, people ask what is podcast versus a podcast episode. You may get confused sometimes if you are a beginner. The word podcast refers to the show in its entirety, while a podcast episode is a single chapter of that show. Suppose podcast is a book and postcard episode is a chapter of that. Then comes what's the difference between podcast and an audio file. Podcast is also an audio file, but it is greater than that, have some more broader aspect than only an audio file. An audio file is what stores a segment of sound, while podcasters record their episode and store it in an audio file on their computer or mobile phones. A podcast, on the other hand, is a show. It's not an only an audio file. It's a show that distributes audio and video files to users over the internet. Then comes what is a podcast and how does it work? It's a very common question. Are podcasts free? Mostly yes, but some of them may charge you a fee. What is the best? We cannot say what is the best podcast app. Currently, I am using Anchor. I will be demonstrating that particular app. But here, if you want an app with largest number of shows, use Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts. They have a broader reach for masses. And if you want to combine podcast listening with music, try it via Spotify. Spotify also provides you the recorded tracks in the form of songs or instrumental tracks. If you would rather combine podcasts and audiobooks, then Audible is a great choice for you. And if you prefer granular customization options, try Overcast. You can also get paid for a podcast, but it varies from region to region. As through Anchor, presently, the monetization option is not available in my region, in our region. Who is listening to podcasts? People think that who is going to take care of all these podcasts? Why to prepare all these podcasts? But no, statistics have shown that here you can see that listeners are increasing in diversity. The US study shows that 43% of US men and 39% of US women listen to podcasts. It's a big and huge percentage of the population of US. You can also popularize it your own country also, in your own country as well. These are some of the apps, podcast apps. What is a podcast? Video costing is also there. It is called Vodcast, but here we will be restricted to audio podcasts only. What is a podcast RSS feed? RSS feed is a very important term, and RSS's extension is really simple syndication. An RSS feed is what links listeners to a podcast's content. By subscribing to the RSS feed, listeners automatically receive new episodes. When you put on a new episode and you have already created your RSS feed and shared and distributed it over platforms, then the new episodes as well as the older ones will be published on the podcast host platforms and will be shared on various platforms in the form of RSS feed. RSS feed is an online file that contains details about every piece of content a site or a platform has published. It shows you, means RSS shows you the title, description, and links back to the original content. These are some for scripted podcasts. You can ask, what is scripted podcast? A podcast script can be anything from a loose outline to a word for word transcript of a show. If you want to be more clear, more precise, then you can use word for word transcript for a show, your audio show. It's the written guideline and plan for a podcast episode. Okay, let's come back to slides. The steps for podcasting. These are some steps. First of all, you have to decide the purpose to start a podcast. Why you are going to start your podcasting? What is the purpose of your podcast? Is it educational or not? And if it is educational, what is the target audience? What will be the target audiences of your podcast? Means you have to clearly decide the purpose of podcast. You want to tell history, you want to teach science, or you want to tell English pronunciation. Whatever may be the case, you have to decide it accordingly and precisely. Next comes, you have to select a podcast topic or episode, a theme, and name. You can choose any special name so that it can distinguish your common name from other podcasters to have a quick reach to your podcast, because your name will be special. So the attention will also be there. Common names must be avoided. Next step is choose a podcast format and structure. We have already discussed so many formats: scripted, non-scripted, non-fictional, fictional, and it may be interview type, discussion type, narration type. So you can choose accordingly the format and structure for the purpose of podcast creation. Next step comes You have to create your own podcast branding. You have to uh, create your podcast art, podcast image, podcast specifications, outline important things that you are going to discuss with students through your podcast. Means you have to create your own branding. You can share your RSS feed and your links of various podcasts to the target audiences so that they can click on it and have a careful listening over it. Set up your podcast equipment. You have to set up your podcast equipment. For this, you need small expenditure. You can have a condenser mic. You can also use your Android phones for recording. Usually, as I am experiencing over Anchor, usually the recording should be done via some independent platform. I will be showing you when I will demonstrate it, and then you can upload it in your podcast, because specific audio softwares are very helpful to remix or to edit your recorded voice to make it more impactful, effective, less noisy. So set up your equipments. Your phone, this mobile phone is also an equipment for podcasting. Your computer machines, your microphones, your headphones. Then you can accordingly set up the required desired postcard equipments as per your convenience. Next is you have to find the best podcast recording software. I was talking about audio softwares, but most of the podcasting libraries or platforms have their own recording software where you can edit it as well. Next, prepare for your preliminary podcast episodes. I suggest you to first prepare a minute or two audio podcast just for the purpose of advertisement as a trailer for your podcasting platform, so that target audience can have an idea that what you are going to present in front of them as your audio content. So you have to be well prepared with some preliminary podcast episodes. You can hear it, you can have a feedback through experts on it, and accordingly you can modify it. As day by day you will be using it, you will be getting more familiar with these podcasting applications and processes, and definitely you will enjoy it as your own radio channel from where you can communicate to masses with a single click in no time. Then you have to start recording your first postcard episodes. For episodes, there may be 2 episodes, 3 episodes, or there may be a complete single episode for your podcast. Then you have to record it accordingly. Anchor platform that we will be going to demonstrate it, that it records at least 30 minutes audio file in a single stretch. So you can start recording your first podcast episode. For that recording purposes, you must choose a quiet room or a place where only your voice is recorded and nothing else. I use preferably to record in nights when there is less noise, no background noises coming out of the roads or nearby places. Then edit your podcast recording. As I have already told you that your recording may have some flaws, may have some vagueness, incompleteness. Then for that you have to edit your podcast. You can add some background music. You can raise the volume of your audio file through audio softwares, and also you can add transitions in the beginning and at the last. That will be shown to you today. Next one is publish your podcast with a hosting platform. When you have already, it is usually directly recorded over a podcast, but if you have already recorded on a separate audio recording software, then after that you have to publish it, you have to publish your own creation or podcast with a hosting platform so that anybody can have a listening to it. Now, when you have already published your podcast, finally rechecked it so many times, then published it, then now the time comes for the promotion of your podcast or intellectual property creation. You can promote your podcast, you can share your links with your friends, with your students, with your managers, so that you have a sound audience base for your podcast and future podcasts as well. Last but not the least, you have to assess and evaluate your podcast success. How can it be assessed? It can be assessed through feedback. If you have put on some podcast episode on a particular platform, then there is a provision that listeners can give feedbacks on them through voice messages. They can send voice messages so that you can have a proper feedback. You can modify your e-content in the form of podcasts and make it more effective and more relevant. Okay, these were the some steps, important steps to create a podcast. Now move on to the next slide. Some educational podcasts. We will be referring to some educational podcasts now through this link. These are some top 10 educational podcasts. Revisionist History, Encyclopedia Womanica, Climate Cast, Ear Hustle, Overheard at National Geographic. You can observe here that to listen this podcast, we can select Apple Podcasts if possible. We can select Stitcher and we can select Spotify. I would like to mention a point here that when you upload anything on a particular podcasting platform or directory, then you have the options. Mostly all of the softwares or apps provide you the option to share it some other directories also. Say, for example, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. So let's click on Stitcher and see if it is free or not. Say, for example, The Triumph and Tragedy of Indian Independence. Click on it.
Nobody on the.
So this was an example that how you can go to a particular platform and have an idea of podcasts. Different types of options are available. There are so many platforms out there you can visit and have your podcasting experiences. First, I would suggest you to go through some of the important podcasts in the field of education. And then accordingly, you have to plan that how you can utilize your own potential to create effective podcasts. I will be sharing the PPT so that you can have the links as well. I have also given a due credit to these resources. Then comes Anchor that we have to look today. It's a podcast directory and sponsored by Spotify. You can log on to http Anchor FM, and to reach its sign up page, go to sign up Anchor. These are the links I will be showing you. Then fill up the sign up details if you are a new podcaster, new to it. Otherwise, simply if you have already an account on Anchor, then you can log in with your login details. And to sign in or login in, visit the same link. Then make your first episode and you can save it. You can record for up to 30 minutes in one's web browser, in your web browser. So maximum 30 minutes. If you would like to record for longer, you can use any application, outside application on your computer, and then upload the file to the Anchor platform. These are some specific links. Let's visit this one.
Sir, screen is not visible.
It is not visible.
Yes.
Now, is it visible?
No, sir.
Well, let me reshare it. Okay, it's not visible. Is it visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I have just created a preliminary project on podcasts recently, yesterday, for the purpose of demonstration. It may have some flaws also. We can also improve it a lot. So let's have a click. Transition music. This is the background audio. नमस्कार दोस्तों, कैसे हैं? आज हम लोग शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में किए जाने वाले एक विशिष्ट अनुसंधान के संदर्भ में चर्चा करने के लिए एकत्रित हुए हैं और उसे ही हम आज का टॉपिक बनाएंगे। Is my PPT visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Spotify is a platform which provides you the pre-recorded songs and music, and you can integrate your Anchor platform with Spotify naturally by logging into spotify.com, and from there you can share your Anchor content over Spotify as well. Some myths about podcasting. What are those myths? Quickly we will see. Myths. You have to be a natural born communicator or speaker. No, nothing else. You have to be an effective speaker, and with practice and time, as we are the teachers, we can practice it to have a good communication skill or speaking ability, because you have to speak only for 10 to 15 minutes, not more than 30 minutes. Longer podcasting is not suggested because listeners will not Listen it carefully. So it's a myth that one podcaster must have a natural born communication abilities or he be a natural speaker. No, you can train yourself in that manner. You have to podcast in a large Nike to succeed. No, only one or two or three podcasting may have the course done if they are effective and presented well on time. Third myth is you have to have a following. No, you have to initiate the following through sharing, and then it will be getting multiplied day by day. If your podcasts are effective, entertaining, then you don't have to worry for initial following numbers, initial numbers of your followers. Following will be uh, increasing day by day as you will be creating more podcasts, effective podcasts. Okay, so these were some myths. Now coming on to the next slide. Sample educational podcasts. I have given some links of sample podcasts. You can have these links for a easily grasp of educational podcasting. You can hear these podcasts to train yourself that how effectively podcasting can be done, how I can record it, when to stop, when to pause, what should be the flow, because the only weapon in your hand is your voice, and you have to work hard and train yourself to record better and better. Thank you. Now we should move towards its practical aspects, means practical aspects of Anchor. So go to the previous slide where links were there. Okay, you can log on to Anchor FM. You can also have your Anchor application installed in Android phone via your Play stores. So this is my own platform created for the purpose of demonstration. Suppose I have logged out. What you have to do? First, you have to visit Anchor platform provided by Spotify, and let us have an overlook on some features of it. It's a very impactful, effective tool to power any podcast. Means this is one of the directories for podcasting that we have with us. We can directly record onto it. No need to use any external voice recorder or so. But I will suggest for better and more powerful recordings, you should use some external audio softwares for your audio recordings, and later on you can upload it to Anchor. Then it provides unlimited hosting, streamlined distribution. It's very free. You own the rights to all of your content and can host unlimited episodes for free always. Then you can distribute it to the other major listening applications or directories. Spotify can be reached directly because Spotify has provided this platform, and you can also go to Google Podcast, Apple Podcast as well. It also provides an insightful and clear-cut analytics from Spotify. You can have the details about how many participants or listeners have gone through this content. As we found number of likes on YouTube, there have some performance tools to help. You can grow your audience. Engagement insights help you to see where your Spotify listeners are dropping off. So you can plan your podcast around the content that performs best. unique insight on your listeners. Audience breakdowns on aggregated age, gender, etc. is being provided so that you can have a proper analysis of the podcasts and its reach. You can also get paid to podcasts through monetization. Currently, it is not available in our region. You can also add some background musics. You can also add transitions. I will show you how to do it. Very convenient tools to create audio podcasts. This is an example how it reflects when you log into it after signing it. Very flexible recording. Video podcasts are also available, but today we will only be discussing about audio podcasting. You can rearrange segments of your episodes. Means an episode may have some segments. May say, for example, introduction, transition, the real story, and the last ending transition. Then you can use exclusive Spotify music integration through your Anchor. Add any full track from Spotify to your episodes and combine music and conversation to explore the full possibilities of audio. You can collaborate with co-hosts, guests, and listeners. Means multiple people can record with you at the same time. You can also invite them to send you a voice message, as I have already told you, in the form of feedback, or join the conversation with question and answer and polls. It also has a feature of cover art creator, from where you can use your own profile pic, or you can use pictures like this, growing pains, and you can easily create your own cover art through Anchor platform. So this was something about important features of Anchor. Let us start its application. For that, we have to first sign up. You have to sign up first if you have not created any account on Anchor till date. Here you can write your full name. Say, for example, my name is then you can give your email ID. Then you can set a password that is means you can have it memorized so that you can use it every time. Otherwise, you have the option to save it through your system of a Chrome browser or any other browser. It saves for you, but it should be done on your personal computer only. Otherwise, anyone can log in it without actually typing the password. So be careful with password so that nobody can misuse it. So you can have any password. Then it will ask, what is your date of birth? Date, day means day, year, and month. Then you have to click it just to show that you are not a robot or machine, you are a person, living being, and sign it up here. Suppose I have clicked it. I have not filled this, that is why it is showing in reds. And then you have to sign up. Is my screen visible to all of you? Anybody?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. You can sign up. It will ask this checkbox. If you check this, then you will be getting news and offers from Anchor. And you can also import existing podcast as well. Then sign up. Date of birth is required. I have not filled it. Suppose, say, for example, any date. Sorry, you don't meet Anchor's age requirements. Okay, 18 years and above.
ओके हा तो मेसेज मी अर्धवटच वाचला.
Unable
हो
to
का?
create. Okay, the page is showing some error. I have already an account. I was just trying to show you that how you can sign up into this account if you are going to use it for the first time. I will simply log in into it. Then you have to log in, and how to log in I will show you. Say for example, I am typing Anchor
एक्झिबिशन कसलं आहे पण प्रोजेक्ट
FM login page. If you have already created an account, as I have told you recently, then simply you can put your email ID
ग्रुपवर फॉरवर्ड करू का
and you can use
Sir, you are get muted. Please unmute, sir.
yes. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And my screen is visible to you?
Yes.
Okay. When you log in through your login credentials, then it will look like the page will open and it will look like as it is looking here. This was created by me. It is called Art, Podcast Art. I will show you how to create it. And let me show you the dashboard section is already there. It is opened up by default. Then if you want to see how many episodes have been created, then you can click on episodes. And I have created one episode. Then this episode, at the extreme right side, we have 3 buttons. Click on it. View episode details. Say for example, this is the detail, action research in Hindi. And this episode has been published already and can be heard everywhere your podcast is available. And the main focus is written here. The orientation about the types of research means what is the purpose of this? As I have already told you, you have to be very specific regarding the purpose of your podcast. I have briefly mentioned it that this podcast is the orientation about the types of researches being done in education with special emphasis to action research. It has got 2 number of plays. You can see it here. 2 number of plays. You can also edit it and you can also share it on your Facebook account, Twitter account. You can copy the link and share it on WhatsApp and other messengers or messaging apps. And you can also embed it link as well. Then a question arises, what is embed link? An embedded hyperlink is what? A text is used as the link rather than the actual URL, and it works with HTTP protocol. So you can edit it as well. This is the episode segment. These are the episode segments. Here is the first one, second one, third one. This is first and third one are the transmissions in the form of music. You can have the idea just by clicking it. Last one also is the same. And this is the main body with background music. नमस्कार दोस्तों, कैसे हैं? आज हम लोग, and if you want to play it here from, you can also play it. शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में किए जाने वाले एक विशिष्ट अनुसंधान के संदर्भ में you can also edit audio of already published podcasts. So let us begin with recording a voice message, and adding some background music, and adding transition as well. So when you want to create any new episode, then you have to click this new episode button. But before that, I would like to demonstrate some of the important segments of this Anchor application so that it will be easy for all of us to grasp it easily. Then comes podcast availability. From settings, you can have this tab, and upon clicking this tab, you will be getting podcast availability. My podcast is already available on Spotify. As you can see this link, I can share this link. I have already shared this link in my PPT, earlier PPT. Upon a single click, you can directly reach up to the podcast that I have already uploaded or other episodes as well. And Anchor, this is the link given to this particular application Anchor. This is the Anchor link for my podcast platform, and this is the link of Spotify for my podcasting. I publish it on Anchor, and simultaneously it asks me to give the permission to share it on Spotify as well for a larger reach. Then this is the RSS distribution I have already told. Really simple syndication link. This RSS feed can be copied and shared with the audiences so that they can directly reach up to this content. Now, you have some other options. If you have an account on Apple Podcast, then you can also copy your Apple Podcast RSS feed or link here, as we can see the link of Spotify here. In the same manner, you can also give your Apple Podcast link if you have an account with Apple Podcasts. Otherwise, you will not be able to do this. Then you have the option to share your Anchor content over Google Podcasts by simply having an account with Google Podcast as well as the link of that particular software. Then Overcast, then Amazon Music, then Castbox, then Pocket Casts, then Radio Public. If you have an account with Radio Public, then you can copy your Radio Public platform link here, and simultaneously you can share your Anchor content through so many other audio platforms or podcast libraries. Stitcher is also there. Okay, so this was all about podcast availability section. And then comes language. You can choose any of the languages as per your convenience and requirement. Then comes help section. It will help you with so many doubts and topics cleared. You can type your query here and the answer will be given to you if it is already recorded there. Then comes, this is the button for to log out. I'm not going to log out as I have to demonstrate it further. Then update setting. First, when it takes some of the informations by default from your sign up details. So my podcast name is very usual, Dr. Ashish Mishra, but it should not be like that. It is just for an example indication. You have to be very creative podcast and specific podcast name so that you can be more searchable, because there may be so many Dr. Ashish Mishra. But if I can give a name like Ashish Digital or Ashish Educational Podcasts, then it will be a quite specific and will be searchable easily. Then you have to describe your podcast channel, the actual podcast channel, your radio channel. I have just mentioned it. This is all about reflection on my personal creativity with reference to teaching, learning, and music. You can also write up to 600 words as per your requirement and convenience. You can easily change it anytime, but after changing, you must save the changes. Otherwise, the earlier ones will resume if you forget to save. This is podcast cover art. You can update it also. You can download it also. Let's update cover art. Let's see how to update cover art. Click on it. You can search for a photo. You can upload an image, and you can choose one for yourself. You can search for photos. Click on it. There are so many photos. Suppose I have chosen this. It will take some time to reflect, and you can adjust its zoom position, zoom in, zoom out. You can adjust it accordingly with this button. You can see it. I'm just demonstrating it. Then you have to click continue. This is being updated. Now it is finally updated, means cover art has been finally updated. Now you can choose apply text or show anchor logo on the cover art. If you click it off, then anchor logo will not be visible in this cover art. If you want to make it visible, means anchor logo, if you want to anchor logo be visible through your podcast art, cover art, then you have to click it on. And if you want to apply text, then you have to click it on. Apply text, here is my name. Actually, it is blurred because it is not having contrast. I have to update my text also. If I switch it off, then no text will be appearing as it was earlier appearing here, Dr. Ashish Mishra. And if I want to appear in my podcast text on my art, then I have to click this button on. And I have to choose from among these colors so that name can be reflected just like this. Actually, earlier it was in white, so it was not visible due to lack of contrast, absence of contrast. Now, if I have click on this black color, then the background is lighter and the text is darker, so it can be easily seen. You can also change the font style. Say, for example, I'm going to choose this one. It is being done. Wait, takes some time. Now it is visible, Dr. Ashish Mishra with a different style font size. You can also choose other ones. It takes some time before actual application. It is being updated. Dr. Ashish Mishra means whatever your podcast name is there, it will be reflecting on your podcast art. If you do not want to get it reflected on your podcast art, then you have to simply click this off, apply text button off. And if you want to show anchor logo on cover art, then you have to put it on. Otherwise, you can put it off as well. Anchor logo is here. Okay. You can update cover art, or you can simply get back if you don't want to update. If you click on update cover art, then this earlier cover art will be replaced by the newer one. I'm not going to replace it. I was just trying to demonstrate you how you can update or add your podcast art with texts. Back. You can upload an image also from your browser. Means your own profile pic or your passport pic to make your podcast cover art visible. Okay, I'm not going to make my profile picture as my cover art. And you can also choose one for yourself specifically. Like this. You can also continue with this. it is being applied. Means we have lots of options for updating cover art on Anchor application. Now we are moving back and we'll discuss other dimensions of this Anchor application. You can download this art as well. I have already told you. Then you have to give the details of podcast. Means podcast category. You can choose among from different categories. Say, for example, relationship, fantasy sports, education, technology, etc. You have to decide your podcast category so that it can be searchable in that category only. It will act as a keyword, a classification for your podcasting. Then podcast language. You can select language as per your requirement. Say, for example, English, United Kingdom. Then you can have other account settings. Display name is this one, Dr. Ashish Mishra, display name. You can change it accordingly. Suppose I have changed my display name as technology with Dr. Ashish. Then you have to provide your email ID. Then you can provide your website, Google website or any other relevant website if you have. And custom URLs are also there for Anchor. To reach Anchor, my Anchor page, this is the custom URL. I can customize it as well. Profile color. My Twitter handle can be copied here. My Instagram handle can be copied here. YouTube link, my YouTube channel link can be copied here. And my Facebook page link can be, profile can be copied here. Spotify account is always there. To create Spotify, it is optional. You can create Spotify account. For that, you have to again sign up in Spotify and log in accordingly. You can change it also. Then leaving Anchor, these are the directions. If you want to leave Anchor, then you have to say what is the new URL. And if you are finally not going to use it for anymore, then you can delete your account as well. It is an option. Now, these are some advanced options. As far as content is concerned, you have to check whether you are presenting clean content or you are presenting explicit content. Explicit means something very clear. It may be a sexual explicitly sexual content. It may be a violent content. Then you have to mention that your own category is explicit or clean. In education, we generally use clean contents. We should avoid explicit contents because we have the targets in the form of our students, and for them we have to be very systematic and should avoid any explicit content to be shared with them. So you can also check this out. You can also have an voice messages linked to your each episode descriptions. For each episode descriptions, you have the option to link your voice messages as well, if you want to or wish to do so. Then I'm just going to save it. My display name will be changed. Now this will be my display name. Now let's have an idea how to record a podcast, so that after completing this session, you will be able to create your own podcast, share with your friends. You can learn it through over a period of time. So we should click here, new episode. We have to create a new episode. Create an episode or quick upload it. When you click new episode, then it will ask you, do you want to create an episode on this Anchor platform itself, or you want an already recorded audio file as your podcast episode? you have both these options. If you have already recorded your uh, podcast, audio podcast or episode outside of the Anchor using some other platform, audio platform, and you have finally edited it, and now you want to publish it on Anchor, then you can quickly upload it from here by clicking this button. But we want to create an episode. I have not created any earlier files, so I will be creating a fresh so that I can demonstrate it. When you click create your episode, then you will be having this form of setup. This is the record button. Record button captures audio right from your browser. And this is the library, means previously, this is the library, means you can reuse your previously uploaded audio on Anchor. Say, for example, these are the previously uploaded files in my Anchor account. I can choose any one of them to make a new episode also. Then messages, you can see if there are any voice messages in response to your podcast or some other Anchor user, and you can share your voice message link as well from clicking messages. And you can also have transition. You might have observed that some of the radio programs or channels have a very typical transition music in the beginning or during the program or at the end of the program. Say, for example, you have so many options here. Suppose I am going to click this one, or as I have already this one, can be used as a beginning transition and ending transition to particularize your podcast category. You can also choose other. These are 2 to 3, 4 seconds files, audio files, which can be used as transition purposes. Now, let us record first. I have a smaller script in front of me. Everyone is requested to keep muted. I will try to record it, and let's actually Zoom platform is already using my audio file. Let's see if it is getting recorded or not. Otherwise, I will be using the earlier recorded files to demonstrate you how to create a podcast. Suppose I'm just going to click record now. Yes, it's recording. Hello friends, this is your host, Dr. Ashish Mishra, and you can tune in to my channel, Dr. Ashish Mishra. Today we will discuss about the 4 important stakeholders of action research in education, and these are as follows: teachers, students, principal, manager. Teachers are the main stakeholders and they want to improve their practice, so they usually adopt action research. On the other hand, students can also take part in action research because they are the target audiences of any educational setup. Principalship is a very important post. He is a main supervisor and having a supervisory role. That is why he may resort to action researches to solve different managerial or leadership problems. And last but not the least, managers. Managers have to look into all the matters indirectly. And if they want to make any improvement in their educational setup, then they can also use the tool of action research for improvement of their managerial practices. So friends, see you again on this channel next time. Till then, take good care of yourself and keep listening to my channel. Goodbye. Now stop recording. It is being uploaded directly. It takes some time. We should wait for that. It is processing. Let's have a listening to it. Yes, it's recording. Hello friends, this is your host Dr. Ashish Mishra, and you can tune in to my channel Dr. Ashish Mishra. Today we will, so the recording has been finally done. I'm not going to edit it in any external software as we have paucity of time also. So this is the recording. We can drag it here directly, right side, and we can rearrange this serial as well. Okay, fine. Now we will add a transition to this particular audio file so that it can be effective. So by clicking transition, we have so many transitions. I have added this transition, and I will simply drag this transition over here so that at the very beginning this transition can be heard. Now I will be adding up another transition here at the end of this program. Say for example, this one, or we can anyone can be chosen. This is more audible. I will be choosing this one again. It has been added here in a sequence. You can reshuffle these positions 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. These positions can be reshuffled as well, but I have to keep it here. Now, these are the sections, different sections of your podcast. First transition, beginning transition, and last one end transition, and the main body, main content. Now, with 3 dots, you can remove this from episode. You can download this particular audio file onto your system or computer or mobile phone. You can edit it as well. To edit it, simply click edit audio. Then a software will open up. In Anchor itself, you can choose the beginning point or elimination point from here only. And upon clicking save, the new file will be generated. I'm not going to edit this as we have less time. Okay, so these are the 3 sections. Now I would like to add some background music to my main theme, excluding both the transitions. Add background music. You can add background music from here, from this sign. Add background music. You can have so many varieties of music. Suppose you can choose anyone. Suppose I have chosen this one, then I have to simply click apply. It is being applied. Wait for a minute or a fraction of a second or some seconds. It is showing that it is applied. Now let's check, has it been applied or not, by simply clicking this particular section of the episode. Yes, it's recording. It has not. Hello friends, it has this not is been your applied. Host. Sometime due to browser errors or network errors, we have to again try it. Wait. It is processing. Let's see what happened. Yes, it's recording. Hello friends, this is your host. We can change the background music as well. We can choose more louder one if you want. I have applied another background music to make my conversation more effective, more impactful, more entertaining. Voice with a background music creates a tremendous audio files. Let's check. The background music is working now. Now we should save these changes by clicking on this save changes. Now it's saving. Until and unless we have published it, it is being saved as a draft format. It's still has not been published. It will ask you to publish. So before publication, we should have a glance. Is it working fine or not? Yes, it's recording. Hello in action research, because they are the target audiences. He may resort to make any improvement in their education. Now stop recording. Now it seems that means it can be improved further. It was just for a demonstration purpose. I am still not satisfied with this recording. Otherwise, I have used other softwares, external softwares, to make it more clear, more interesting. But we have paucity of time, and you are the beginner. Then you can simply we can simply proceed with this only. Then you have to put an episode title. Here we can give stakeholders in action research. This is the episode title and episode description. Here, the different types of stakeholders have been discussed with reference to action research. Now, episode description works as a keyword. You can also give keywords as you give in paper writings, paper publication, you provide keywords. So here in episode description, you can also provide keywords. Then publish date, it will ask for you to give a published date. You can publish it now, or you can plan it to get published later on some later dates as well. It's giving me the chance for till August 31st. Then also we can plan it for future as well. Now we want to publish it right now. Then it will be asking season number, as we find the season numbers in various episodes. Then episode number, season number may be second, or it can be one. I have already recorded one episode for this season for demonstration purposes. Episode number 2, One is already recorded, so this will be 2. Episode type full trailer bonus. I will click it as a trailer episode. Then content, clean content or explicit. So I will be preferring clean content because our content is clean. It's not explicit in any nature. Now you have to click on this button, publish now. Upon clicking publish now, it will say that episode is published. Now time to grow your audience. You can share it through Facebook, Twitter. You can copy this link or you convert it to a blog post, but I'm not going to convert it to blog post right now. I have just copied this link and say, for example, I have shared this with you in chat box. By clicking this link that I have already sent you in the chat box, you can directly reach to my podcast episode. It has 0 number of plays yet because it has just been published, and it will also get published on Spotify as well to increase its means availability base, means target audiences, masses. It will reach up to the masses. Here you can also do the same thing. You can share it with the Twitter, Facebook. You can copy the link, you embed it link. You can also again re-edit the same. Now let's have relook. This is the transition music at the beginning. This is the background music coming out. Yes, it's recording. Hello friends, this is your host, Dr. Ashish Mishra, and you can tune in to my channel, Dr. Ashish Mishra. Today we will discuss about the 4 important stakeholders of action research in education and these action research. On the other hand, students can also take part in action research because they are he may resort to next time. Till then, take good care of yourself and keep listening to my channel. Goodbye. Now stop recording. This is the ending transition. Now, from my part, today's presentation is over. Now, I would like to invite some questions if you have. Now, over to the host now.
Any queries? Any doubts? Any questions? Yes, participants. Okay, thank you, sir.
Most
I
welcome.
think no questions from participants.
Okay, I would like to request all the participants to create an account on Anchor and record their own podcast. They can do it through their Android phones as well. And I will recommend it to be done over your laptop or desktop machines so that you can have a broader view and learn a lot. And with practice, by time, you will be knowing that you are now getting expert in creating educational podcasts so that you can benefit your students through your own creative efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for
Most,
coming here and sharing your valuable knowledge with us. Thank you once again, sir.
most welcome. Most welcome. I'm
Thank you,
delighted to
sir.
have such an august audience. Let's see, is there any question in chat box? No, there is no question in chat box. So should I leave now this meeting?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. See you again on some other
Yes, sir.
platforms.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Wish you good luck, all the audience. Thank you.